Hi, my name is Charles Preston and I collect things. And all the way from Mother Canada, we have Africville by Faith Nolan. This 1985 vinyl is a timeless collection of songs paying homage to Black history, specifically Black Canadian history. So if you want to talk concept albums, I think you'll be interested in this. But first, I want you to view it, look at it, and then I will read the inscription on the album. This collection of songs looks at the history and nature of Black heritage to Canada. Africville, the title song, was a Black town on the Seaview Harbor in Halifax, which existed from the 1840s to when it was torn down, and the community living there dispersed with little regard and even smaller compensation. This record is dedicated to all of our people who believe in freedom. So Faith Nolan is a lesbian, Black woman, feminist, talented musician, and dedicated activist who often highlights and mobilizes around issues impacting women, Black, Indigenous, and incarcerated people in Canada. You can learn more about Faith at her website, faithnolan.org. But today we have her 1985 album, Africville. Now, before we review the music, I have to break down the title of this album, Africville. Africville was a vibrant Black community that stood for over 120 years, damn near hidden on the outskirts of Halifax, Nova Scotia. That's Canada. The land where it thrived is part of Mi'kmaq territory, home of the Mi'kmaq people for thousands of years before Halifax was founded in 1749. Black and Indigenous histories in this region are deeply intertwined, shaped by colonization and marginalization. Black history in Nova Scotia goes back even further than Africville, with records of enslaved and free Black individuals as early as the 1600s. Following the American Revolution and the War of 1812, many Black people, migrants, arrived to seek freedom and land. Instead, they faced systemic racism, often forced to settle on the most undesirable lands. Africville was one of those type of settlements, a close-knit community built on the shores of the Bedford Basin. Despite systemic neglect from the city of Halifax, Africville flourished. This Black community owned its own stores, its own post office, and even the community's core, the Seaview United Baptist Church. But although Africville residents paid taxes to Halifax, the city refused to provide basic services like clean water or sewage, instead surrounding Africville with developments like a dump, a prison, and an infectious disease hospital. We're talking about a hotbed for healthcare issues and a clear case of like environmental racism. In the 1960s, under the guise of progress and human rights, Halifax decided to demolish Africville and relocate its residents. People got off work and their home was gone. Many were forced out with little compensation. Some even moved using garbage trucks. Seaview Church was bulldozed under the cover of night, and by 1970, Africville was no more. Africville's story doesn't end there. Former residents and their descendants organized, forming the Africville Genealogy Society to fight for justice. In 2010, Halifax's mayor issued a public apology, and a replica of the Seaview Church was rebuilt as the Africville Museum. It was a reminder of what was lost and a symbol of what still endures. To learn more, explore books like The Hanging of Angelique by Afua Cooper, Africville, a novel by Jeffrey Colvin, or North to Bondage by Harvey Amani Whitfield. Or you could visit the Africville Museum in Halifax to hear the voices of those who lived the history firsthand. To the music. If you have the vinyl, there are 12 songs on this album. If you're streaming like on Spotify, you'll probably see 10. I'll be walking you through the vinyl version because that's the one I have. Track 1 is the title track, Africville. This is a jazzy piano number where Faith Nolan repeatedly asks, what happened to Africville? That's the hook. What happened to Africville? But her verses are short stories about run-ins with former community members of Africville. I think it sets the tone of the album. You hear Faith's beautiful voice and her musical direction. Track 2 is entitled Josiah Henson. We must talk about Josiah Henson. Josiah Henson is arguably, to me, one of the most important black people to have ever existed in the United States of America. And I can prove that claim. He inspired Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin, which is the biggest and most influential abolitionist literature in U.S. history. He's the first Uncle Tom before it was like a slur. He is who Uncle Tom was based on the story. Josiah was born enslaved in Maryland. He became a preacher despite his illiteracy. He escaped slavery on foot with his wife and 2 kids. They went 600 miles north to Canada on foot. 600 miles. So once Josiah made it to Canada, he established a freedmen's settlement and a northern stop on the Underground Railroad. You know, the complex abolitionist network involving many individuals and stations that helped runaway slaves to freedom, the Underground Railroad. But you know what he did after that? You know what he did after escaping slavery, traveling 600 miles north to Canada, and then building a place for freedom in Canada? Do you know what he did after that? He crossed back over the Canadian border to help guide 118 slaves back to freedom. And then he published an autobiography. And after he republished it, he used the monies, the profits, to purchase his brother's freedom. That's a man. Not to mention, he also supported families during the Civil War. He also has a museum in Ontario, Canada that's only like a 6-hour drive from Chicago, so I will be making a trip in the future. But back to the music, right? This song is very bluesy. It's very bluesy. And the first thing I notice is the harmonica, and it reminds me of a B.B. King. It got that type of feel. The most interesting aspect of the song, I say, are the lines where Faith states, "I woke up this morning, Josiah Henson on my mind." And it reminds me of that old Negro spiritual, that hymn. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. It reminds me of that, but it also shows you how black music is kind of borderless. Yeah, transcending borders. You had enslaved people in the States fleeing to Canada, carrying musical styles and cultural traditions that they learned all the way back in Africa. It's all black. The next song, Marie Joseph Angelique, is a biographical sketch, and it is totally a cappella. Here, Faith, she gets a sing on. She shows her and displays her like vocal chops. Unlike other songs, it's like she's going for it. But in order to understand this song, you have to know the story of Marie Joseph Angelique. Marie Joseph Angelique was an enslaved woman in Canada who was found guilty for setting a fire that pretty much burned all of old Montreal in 1734. Many say that she set the fire while attempting to escape her enslavers. Despite a lack of clear evidence and her consistent claims of innocence, Angelique was subjected to a brutal trial, tortured in her jail cell, and sentenced to death. Then she was paraded through the streets, her dead body, publicly hanged, publicly burned, just sheer evil. But her story remains as a testament that slavery did exist in Canada and as a symbol for resistance for those opposing white supremacy and racism. Think about it, this is a black woman burning everything if she actually did it. So I would suggest it. For more information, read The Hanging of Angelique by Afua Cooper. Next track, Child of Mine, totally switches the tempo. You get a total change in mood. You went from that slow acapella to a fast-paced cut that has Faith laying righteous claim to the land, the country that she's from. To justify this, she provides examples of black labor and struggle that built what is now known as Nova Scotia. Marion Shad is the next song, and it's another biographical portrait on this album. Marion Shad was the first black woman in North America to be a publisher in North America, not just Canada or the US or Mexico or Central America or parts of the Caribbean, all of them. Second black woman to attend law school. She was the daughter of abolitionists. Once the Fugitive Slave Act passed in the United States, putting more of a target on runaways and abolitionists, her family moved to Canada. There she opened an integrated school and published Canada's first anti-slavery newspaper, the Provincial Freeman, the first anti-slavery newspaper in Canada. Black people are so amazing. But this song differs from other songs in the track list because it's a chorus of children singing. Faith takes a back seat and lets children sing to you the story of Mary and Shad. I find it to be adorable, honestly, and we should have more children on modern day albums just singing entire songs. I believe that. In Nobody Knows My People, you immediately recognize the harmonica again and the country bluesy sounding guitar. It makes you want to square dance and go, yee-haw. It's that type of song. The song Emancipation Day follows, right? And it's the shortest song on the album, coming in at a little over 1 minute and 30 seconds. Here Faith sings, "Have you heard the news? 1834, Emancipation Day has come, slavery no more." Hey. It's a song dedicated to the day in 1834 that the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 came into effect across the British Empire. It's celebrated by Black Canadians, and Faith tells a story about it in like West African drumming, inspired drumming. It's like the most, African beat track. The song Edith Clayton is another upbeat, jazz-heavy piano number, inspired by Edith Clayton, a woman that was known for her basket weaving technique that survived 6 generations of her family. We're talking techniques pre-enslavement from West Africa. These techniques were synced with English-style basket making on U.S. plantations, but Edith's weaving was distinct because she used Mi'kmaq dyes to make unique, colorful design. It's very emblematic of the Black Nova Scotian history, where you had African, indigenous, and English colonial inspiration. There's a great documentary called Black Mother, Black Daughter, 1989, that I will definitely link in the comment section where you can view more about Edith Clayton. In Box Factory, Faith gets her anti-capitalist on, like her anti-capitalist criticism. It's folksy, just her and the acoustic guitar, but the song is a story about labor and how there is no union to protect the worker. Regina, not Regina. Regina is a pro-woman, pro-black anthem. This is the 1980s, so Faith subverts the welfare mother narrative pushed by conservatives in the 80s by making Regina a black welfare mom and an outlaw who kills a white man after he tries to rape her. So the song Uppity Town is upbeat. It leans heavily on piano. Think Little Richard. I get the Little Richard vibe. This song talks about unemployed black folk looking for work and running into obstacles like a 5-mile long unemployment line. She mentions Rosedale, Toronto, a neighborhood known for its wealth, and tells black folks not to buy a home there. Africville, the album, finally ends with Divide and Rule. It has an island type of feel, little soca, little reggae, but it's my favorite song because of the vibe. It's a vibe. It reminds me of Bob Marley. My favorite bar is where Faith says, "Everybody asks me what country I am from. I say I'm the world." Because that's what it's about, baby. The song is absolutely about unity. It acknowledges that everywhere has rich exploiting the poor, militaries, hungry mouths, and there are struggles just everywhere. And we shouldn't let the powers that be divide and rule us. So thank you for coming along this journey. I hope to review more works similar to Africville by Faith Nolan. I think it's a testament of how you can preserve your history through music. And yeah, until next time.